G'day, it's Sunday, 19th of December 2021, and I'm coming to you with another truth bomb today. No links, straight from me. I got the idea to do this video from one of the people I'm subscribed to, channels I'm subscribed to, called Sergio and Rhoda in Israel. And they're a Christian couple who are Jewish. I think Sergio made Aliyah from Russia or something. Anyway, they're a young couple that go looking at different archaeological sites that support biblical point of view or the truth. And they've gone out to a place called Tel Arad, referred in the Bible as Arad. Also, he calls it El Arad. If you know anything about El, you know what that's referring to. The town is referring to El, right? But it's been changed with a T. I'll leave that up to you, but think of the time of year we're at and what T stands for, perhaps. And it's not the cross of the Yahuwah Mashiach. Yahushua HaMashiach. I thought I said something wrong there. Tammuz, basically. So I should cut a long story short. I've got a lot to get through. So in the video, they go out to this city that was set up with a replica temple. It had all the same sort of layout as the temple in Jerusalem. The Jews weren't allowed to worship anywhere else but besides Jerusalem. Only one holy place. There's one El. So anyway, it's dated to around the time of Ahaz, this temple, this city. It was previously a Canaanite city and it's been built on top of. But they've dated the temple in particular to the time of Ahaz. And Ahaz was an evil king in Yahuwah's eyes as he built high places. And this is situated on a hill on a high place. And it's quite a magnificent city to look at, actually, or to imagine. But inside the temple, it looks like there's an idol set up inside the most holy place, and there's two pillars leading into it. And on them have had a residue which they've only been able to recently discover what it is. And they found, because they can't test for organic compounds from the previous archaeological digs back in the 60s, they haven't been able to determine it till now that it's actually THC or cannabis resin and frankincense. Now, frankincense was in the incense in the temple. We're given that in the instructions from Exodus chapter 30, which I'll read in a minute. But the other surprise was cannabis, and it was a surprise to Sergio and Rhoda. And I'm quite disappointed in how the outcome of the video went, to be honest, and their summation of it. But it's understandable, considering the place was a place of false worship, in the sense that they were worshipping Yahuwah and other gods in a similar way to how they'd worship in the temple. Don't forget, this was built with all that in mind, the layout of the place, even though it wasn't exact in its dimensions, which sort of says something itself. They're not going to be particular about Yahuwah's dimensional requirements, are they? But they're going to try and get it close to cover their sins and feel good about their false god worship. So was the cannabis there because they were incorporating Canaanite beliefs and wanted to get high or whatever? Or was it there and therefore should we find it in the Bible? Well, I'll cut short to the chase. There's a dubious herb in there which it has a Latin name, and it's called calamus, or sweet calamus. And I want you to think of Latin in the sense that where all the perversion and inversion comes from. Now, I'll just start off with the reading of the word where it talks about the spices. Exodus 30 and verse 22. Moreover, Yahuwah spoke unto Moshe, saying, Take also of the principal spices pure myrrh 500 shekels, and of sweet cinnamon half as much, even 250 shekels, and of sweet calamus 250 shekels. And he goes down and says, and verse 25, make an oil of holy ointment, an ointment compound after the art of apothecary, and it shall be a holy anointing oil. And it says it shall anoint the temple and all that with it. And then in verse 34, and Yahuwah said to Moses, take unto thee sweet spices, stacked onka, I don't know what that is, and galbanum, these sweet spices with pure frankincense. Okay, so frankincense is in there. And now those other spices are going to come in a bit later when I look at what the material is, what they were materially or composed of, which was interesting in the making of incenses, what the other components were. When we're going to compare is calamus, what it's really talking about, a reed that grows in the Middle East as well, around the marshes, like a shaft, a reed, that can have a sweet smell when it's burnt, the root, and they get the oil out of the root too. Now, the actual extraction of the oil is done now modernly through steam distillation or something. I think that's what it was called. Some complex process anyway that they wouldn't have been using back then. And that's important when you're thinking of where the other materials that we used as well, because they were gummy. But I will get into that in a minute. So this word calamus, if we go to the Strongs, I've got the Strongs here in front of me. I've got two books I'll be referring to today. The Strongs Exhaustive Concordance of the Bible and Unger's Bible Dictionary. So we're going to go to the Strongs for the word calamus first. And it says, calamus, Exodus 30 verse 23, it's 7070. Okay, that's the Strong's number. So if we go to 7070, it says Qaneh. It's Qaneh, or it's pronounced Qaneh. Qaneh. So it says resemblance of a rod for measuring, shaft, stem, balance, branch, reed. Okay, spearman. What? Times spearman. Also, stalk. It must be strong. You can use it for a spear. Okay, so Qaneh. Qaneh is the word for calamus. Qaneh. Doesn't sound like it much, does it? But there's two parts to this, because it's not just Qaneh, it's sweet calamus. So if we look at the Hebrew for sweet, and I've already done this and got the page listed, it's 1314, and I've slipped a couple of pages there, have I? Maybe it's 1314. Basam or balsam, from the same as 1313, basam. Fragrance, sweet, smell, spice, odor. Okay, so it's put together. Sweet calamus is Qaneh balsam. Qaneh balsam. Okay, so when I looked at the tried to find any other area, how do you say, like colloquial terms or whatever, or ancient names for what's called today calamus, all I could find was a bunch of names, but they're all like Sweet Flag, Sweet Beat, something like this. They they had nothing that sounded like it, and yet we're supposed to believe that the root word for calamus, which is Latin, that is the Hebrew Qaneh. Now, if you look at the word for cinnamon there, it was called cinnamon, right? It didn't change much out of K, just like the Hebrew K. I'm not sure why they go between K and Q, but anyway. So as the word was transliterated rather than translated. There was no meaning in it. It was transliteration of the word. And then another interesting note to side note is that cannabis was indigenous to the Middle East, and actually the Indo-Iranians, when they traded in it, were calling it kanubu. So I'm saying I believe that the cannabis that was in that resin was taken because it was easy to access, and for other reasons that I'm about to go into now. But before I do, I want to make sure I don't miss anything, because it's hard to go back and make another video over and over. This is my third attempt. So anyway, I'm going to bring up the Unger's Bible Dictionary now, and I want you to keep in mind Exodus chapter 30, where it talks that they were supposed to, I'll read it, Exodus 30, they were to make a perfume in verse 35, a confection after the art of apothecary, tempered together, pure and holy, and you shall beat some of it very small. So they were supposed to beat it and temper it, right? And what I'm about to show you now is all the ingredients, bar the shells of a certain mollusk which had a musky smell, were gummy. So first we'll look at the incense. The material, it says that the incense employed in the service of the tabernacle was called incense of the aromas. So it had, really nice smells. Also, incidentally, I don't think calamus fresh smells like anything. It has to be burnt. But cannabis smells like perfume of its own self without even being burnt beforehand. So they had the sacked. It was called stacked. I don't know how to say that, but it was not squeezed from the highly fragrant myrrh tree, but probably a species of gum storax resembling myrrh. So they insinuating already the first ingredient had to be probably gummy. Then they say the onca, that was the shell of the perfume must, and the bladder byzantina. Going a bit further, galbanum, right? That's a gum that is obtained by making incisions in the bark of a shrub growing in Syria, Arabia, and Abyssinia. Then there's pure frankincense. It means literally white. A pale yellow, semi-transparent, pungent resin which, when burnt, is very fragrant. Okay, now in the preparation it says that the ingredients were all beaten separately, but they were pounded. Anyway, just like they get the resin from the cannabis plant, they pound it. Where if you were to take the calamus, you couldn't have got the oil back then, I don't believe, without some steam distillation process. Then, from what I've gathered from reading modern commentary of people who are taking it, calamus, smoking it in different means, and that it's not very pleasant to smoke. It does have a smell, the oil, that's nice apparently, but like I said, they were dealing with the root, and it's very hard. It has to be ground, which it could have been involved in, but there is a potential toxic side to calamus as well. The FDA has it banned substance as a banned substance because it's potentially carcinogenic to mammals. So that could be a smokescreen, a double smokescreen to make you think, oh, they've banned it because that was the original thing. But I think that's what the case is, a double smokescreen. But anyway, not to get too hung up on that. The fact is that it has other people who are talking online, from what I could briefly see, are warning that it's a bit hectic. It's got a toxic element to it. Okay, whether that's true or they're just basing on what they've heard of the FDA, I'm not sure. But that is a side issue. Not only that, well, if you look at the opposite side of that, cannabis, on the other hand, has no toxic properties, actually cleans the soil it's in, has so many healing properties, and also is a wonderful smelling cane. Now, if you look up in the Ungers, don't forget, these are put together by people who have a slant too, okay? But the truth is in there. Let's see, where it says under reeds, Qaneh, which is cognate with cane, may be considered as the equivalent of the English reed. Okay, they're putting their slant on it a bit. Taken as the term in its broad sense, it includes tall grasses with woody stems such as blah blah, few there, reed shaken within. But what I wanted to show was that it said further down, the true reed Qaneh is vicariously translated reed, stalk, bone, beam of a balance, branches of a lampstand, cane, and then they throw calamus right at the end. That reed that grows up isn't used for measuring, as far as I know. It can't. The actual cannabis plant resembles a 7-branch candlestick if you look at it growing. It looks like bones with joints. It's strong. It's a wonderful creation of Yahuwah, actually, for the healing of the nations. But not to go into that too much, I wanted to just, let's see where my paperwork, which fell off my lap, is gone. Just as an interesting little note, no, I won't go into the gematria just yet. So what it seems to me is this Latin word calamus, which has no ancient root, but another plant which was called cannabis or cannabis or canubu has been somehow obscured, and then we've got this cannabis plant that's come out of nowhere all of a sudden, which is banned, and now they're all and demonized for so many years by the people who run the timber paint, pharmaceutical industry. Pharmacia, don't forget, is indoctrinating and turning the world upside down, from the same Latin roots. What was I going to say? Yeah, not only are they demonizing, but the truth is coming out about it now. Now they want exorbitant prices for it. But the truth can be found, and so you've seen in some ways today, it's pretty obvious if you just dig a little bit. But people will just want to believe what they're easily told quickly. And so they will demonize and call that which is good evil. I've found from personal use at times that I find my muscles and cramps ease, and my CPTSD or anxiety decreases. So I cannot say anything evil from my point of view. I've only found it beneficial, and I'm not here to advocate for it. It's just that I watched this video that at the end they intimated, which I'm unhappy with, that the people there were obviously false god worshipping, trying to do it in a way that resembles the temple. Yet this cannabis must have been because they were false god worshippers like Canaanites and incorporated into the incense when it wasn't there. This is what they intimated. Yet I believe it was there for the reason that it was for centering, and it was, don't forget these priests, I'm not talking about the false god temple replica in El Arad. I'm talking about the one in Jerusalem having cannabosum in it, really, because of its mental clarifying effects. And if those people were enhanced on meditation and seeking Yahuwah, it would have blended with the other fragrances, been amazing, I imagine, but also added to their meditational clarity. I believe that, as the Jamaicans put it, Mon, it's there for the healing of the nations, and they believe that it teaches you the truth about yourself, and I wouldn't say I disagree with that. So, from everything I can see, calamus in Exodus is there to deceive, and like all of, here's an interesting thing, gematria, you can work out the deception on that level too. Here's some interesting facts. The pure word Qaneh, I couldn't find anything linked really to the Jesuit, gosh, I said it, the J and the SU, it's, but I'm not an expert on gematria in any way. But what I could find was that the made-up terms for it and the term put in place of Qaneh, which is calamus, had lots of number links that I could find very easily to not only the free M and then the ace and then the ons, but also the J and the S units. So here's some numbers that are interesting. Calamus, the substitute, has 66. I'm not going to go into the numbers. Those who understand the societies I spoke of will understand the numbers. 66, 911. Now we know that has its roots in the Messiah's crucifixion. That's the number for Society of the Society of Jesus. I'll just say it because it's too hard. 21 is J and then SUITs, and that's what calamus is as well. Not only that, that side links to toxic, which is 21, and 26, which is, oh gosh, I got a little bit lost there. Yeah, but basically the poison and the toxic numbers can be linked to the made-up names for Qaneh, and the original Qaneh has 27 come up 3 times. I wondered about that, and the Strong's was 70, so I was thinking maybe it's just saying 2 sevens and pointing to the truth. That's incidental. The fact is, one of them is extremely hard to get the oil out of, and it wasn't traded like this was for all of its uses. It wasn't called the same thing. It's a Latin name, and one has been hugely suppressed by certain companies in modern times, and people demonized for wanting healing from it. For what reason? Why hide it? Because everything that's supposed to help us is being hidden. So I'd ask you to wake up and overcome any personal biases you have, and perhaps help yourself. Who knows? Maybe this is just the beginning on the path of another road of truth that might help you to life. But for me, I know that I won't be calling good evil, and good is an understatement. I won't be calling good evil or evil good as much as I can avoid it. I think I've pretty much dealt with everything there. Thanks for listening.